We're just going to start in a seated position. So whatever's comfortable for you. I like to sit on a block, and we can either sit as if we're sitting back on our heels, but having the block supporting us. We can sit with our legs straight out, or we can sit in a cross-legged position. If we're sitting in a cross-legged position, I just recommend that we sit on a block. It just allows the femur bones in our thighs to be a little bit lower than our hip sockets and then not jam straight into the hip sockets. We're also going to grab our strap to start. And the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of breathing practice, just to become aware of our breath. So we're going to grab this strap and just pass it around our back and then cross it over in front of us and just hold it loosely in each hand. So just a little bit of pressure on there, but nothing too much. Try and keep our shoulders nice and relaxed. We'll just do a couple of shoulder rolls here, just to start, shake off the day. Just excuse my puppy dog. Yoga to him. Yoga means ball throwing, but we're not doing that today. Just a couple of more nice, gentle shoulder rolls. And just letting our shoulders settle a little bit away from our ears if that's possible for us. And I encourage you to either close your eyes if that's available to you, or if not, just taking a soft gaze somewhere in front of you, let the eyes become a little blurry. Either option's fine. And we're just becoming aware of our breath. So just noticing the breath as it comes in. We want to approach this class without any expectations of ourselves, without any judgment of ourselves, and without any comparison to others, or even to ourselves from class to class. Just be present in the moment. Just noticing our breath. It might be settling in the top of our chest. If we've been coming to a yoga for a while, it may automatically become a little deeper and a little slower. There's no right or wrong. It's just an observation. And now I want us to consciously, if we can, try and create a little bit of tautness in that strap and try and breathe into that strap. So feeling the strap all the way around the back of our body, the side ribs. Just noticing if we can deepen that breath, even just a little bit. No requirement for deep, deep breaths, just whatever you can get. And in yoga, if at all possible, we try and breathe through our nose. If that feels uncomfortable or restrictive, then mouth breathing is our option. But breathing through our nose helps us activate our parasympathetic nervous system, in particular our ventral vagus nervous system. Dragging the breath down the back of the nose, down the back of the throat, giving some love to our vagus nerve, which helps us out of our fight or flight. Just trying to breathe into that strap with either that soft gaze or maybe the eyes are closed. Seeing perhaps if we can slow down the breath a little. Maybe lingering in that exhale. Two-thirds of our lungs reside in the back of our body. Just trying to wake them up. Get some movement back there. We're going to take 5 more rounds of breath here. 4 more rounds. 3, 2, and our last round of breath. And just let that strap drop down and bringing our hands to our thighs. Just take a couple of moments to let the breath practice settle over our bodies. And with our hands on our thighs, maybe just rubbing our thighs a little, just notice that connection between our hands and our legs. Just feeling our bodies beneath our hands. And then moving slowly and with purpose, just unravel yourself from your straps. Set them off to the side. If we're on a block, coming off our block. Just making our way onto our backs. When we get to our backs, keeping our legs bent, taking our feet as wide as our mats, and just letting our knees fall in towards each other to what we call a constructive rest pose. So it's just letting the muscles in our hips relax, our upper back supported by the floor. We can take our hands out to the side if that feels comfortable for us, palms facing up. And just again, eyes closed or a soft gaze. Just take a moment here to notice how you feel after just being observant of the breath for a couple of minutes. There may be no difference, there may be some difference. Again, there's no right or wrong. It is what it is. And from here, we're just going to sway our legs from side to side, so letting the knees drop from one side to the other. You may easily get them to the floor, they may hang in space. No right or wrong. Just getting some movement through our hips. Hips often tight from sitting or from the exercises we participate in. So we can expect a little resistance there. Let's start trying to match the movement with breath. So we'll start with our knees up. We'll take an inhale. And as we exhale, letting our knees drop to the right. As we inhale, drawing them back into center, perhaps firming around our middle a little. And as we exhale, letting them drop to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to right. Continuing with that movement. And again, if it's possible, breathing through our nose. And trying to breathe deep into the bottom of our lungs so our belly's moving as well. If it's not possible, it doesn't matter. If any breath practice feels uncomfortable, just let it go and just breathe. Just take 2 more rounds on each side. Matching that breath with movement. And bringing the feet in a little bit closer, maybe hip distance apart and perhaps a little bit closer to our bottoms. We're just going to come up into a bridge. So taking a breath in here, and as we exhale, pushing into our feet and lifting our hips. And we don't have to go very high. We're not that warm. So there's no reason that we need to lift our hips as high as possible. Take a breath in at the top. And as we exhale, let the hips settle back onto our mats. Take an inhale at the bottom. Exhale to push through our feet, lift our hips. Inhale at the top. And then exhale to let them settle. 3 more rounds of that. So an inhale at the bottom. Exhale to lift. Inhale at the top. Exhale to lower. Inhale at the bottom. 2 more. Exhale to lift. Inhale at the top. Exhale as we lower. 1 more round. Breathing and moving at your own pace. Just adding on here, we're adding our arms in for 3 rounds. So an inhale at the bottom. And as we exhale, lift the hips and the arms come to reach overhead. Maybe they touch the floor behind, maybe not. Inhale there. And then exhale, hands come back to the floor, hips come back down. Inhale at the bottom. 2 more rounds, using your own breath at your own pace. And if we get the breathing mixed up, it doesn't matter. Just move and breathe in some form or another. Taking our last round. And then making our way onto our right side. Maybe you want that block to cradle your head. Keeping our legs bent, reaching both arms out in front of us. As we inhale, we're going to draw that arm up and across the body and open it out behind us. Obviously, I'm restricted by the wall, but if you can, stretching that arm out as far behind you as you can, it may or may not reach the floor. Take an exhale here. And then inhale, draw it all the way back in a nice big half circle back to the floor. So inhale, drawing the arm up and across the body. The head may move on the block of the floor, stretching the arm out behind us. Exhaling here. Inhale to draw that arm all the way back. 1 breath, 1 movement. So exhale this time. Draw it across our body. Inhale back. Taking 5 more. Own breath, own pace. Just noticing and feeling what you feel in your body. For me, when my arms stretched out behind me, I feel some tightness across my chest and my pectoral muscles. Other people feel different things. So either counting for yourself, or if you're with me, there's 2 more to go. When you finish that last one, just changing sides. I'll actually swap sides of our mat, so I'm facing the camera, but you guys can just roll over. And doing exactly the same thing 5 times. So just drawing the line across the body, and then a semicircle to bring it back. It doesn't matter which way you're inhaling or exhaling, as long as you're doing 1 with one movement and 1 with the other. If you're with me, we've got 2 more to go. And then from here, we're just going to make our way up onto our hands and knees into a tabletop position. The tabletop is just on hands and knees. Our knees are under our hips, our hands are under our shoulders. If we need some padding under our knees, we're bringing some padding to our knees. I want to push the floor away, creating some engagement across our chest. I'm going to have to go sideways, otherwise I'll kick the wall. So from here, we're going to lift our right leg behind us, trying to keep the points of the pelvis facing towards the mat, and then stretching our left hand out in front of us. So it's opposite arm, opposite leg. Keeping the foot of the right leg flexed if possible, and going no higher than our hip. If we go higher in our hip, we just compensate in our lumbar spine. So we're just trying to firm up through our belly here, find some kind of stability through our core. There may be some wobbling. We may need to bring our foot to the floor to create that stability. Whatever's going to work best for us. And we'll take 3 breaths here. Trying not to let that right hip roll open. 2 more breaths. At the end of this breath, just bring the hand and the knee back to the mat. We'll just run through a couple of cat-cows. So as we inhale, drop the belly, look up, draw the shoulder blades together. And as we exhale, initiate the movement from our tailbone, arching our back, letting our head hang, pushing the floor away. Inhaling to look forward. And exhaling to arch up. Take 2 more of these. Matching the movement with your breath, breath with your movement. From here, we're just going to walk our hands. Oh no, we've got to do the other side, don't we? Lift our left leg behind us. Watch that left hip doesn't roll out. Keep the points of the hips facing to the mat if we can. Adjust the height of that leg for whatever's best working for our own bodies. And then lifting our opposite arm, so our right arm in this case. If we get our left and rights mixed up, it doesn't matter. So find that nice stability, find some firmness in our core. And then take our 3 breaths here. If we're working on breathing through our nose today, trying to breathe through our nose, or swapping between nose breathing and mouth breathing, whatever's going to work best. At the end of that 3rd breath, just bring everything back to the floor and take 3 more rounds of cat and cow. So just at your own pace. Just watching internally the body moving. Trying to match the length of the breath with the length of the movement. And come to that nice neutral spine, so a little bit of a dip in our lumbar spine. And just walk our hands out a little bit further in front so that we're in like a hover position. There's a nice line from our shoulders down through our knees to our hips. We're not sagging in our hips. We're not lifting up in our bottom. As best align as you can. And then drawing our elbows towards our ribs, we're lowering all the way to the floor. Keeping our hands next to our chest, just taking an inhale, coming up for Cobra Pose. And then exhale as we lower, bring our hands beside our body, palms facing down, forehead to the floor. Inhale, lift our chest and our feet, rolling our shoulders back, drawing our shoulder blades together, perhaps like we're trying to catch our feet. As we exhale, feet come to the floor, hands come back near our chest. And then we inhale for Cobra pose again. So just flowing between those two poses. Cobra pose, we exhale, come down. Locust pose, we lift up. So hands facing towards the floor. Exhale, back down for 3 more times. Inhale, Cobra pose, elbows tucked in. Exhale, locust pose. If for some reason one of these doesn't feel right for you, then you can just stay with one or the other. Two more rounds. If we're feeling it in our lower back, it's quite nice to take our feet a little wider, take some pressure off our lower back. Last round. And from here, just pushing back up to hands and knees. Keeping our hips above our knees and walking our hands forward for puppy dog pose or heart melting pose. So your head may or may not reach the floor. You may take a block and rest your head on that if you prefer. Or you can just let your head hang in space. In a moment, we'll be transitioning to downward facing dog. Puppy pose, hands and knees, and child's pose are all interchangeable with downward dog. So for whatever reason downward dog doesn't suit your body, in this class, any other class, or from week to week, you can interchange this pose, puppy pose, hands and knees, or child's pose for downward dog. If we're coming into downward dog, we're moving our hands a little closer, tucking our toes, and we're lifting our hips up and back. Spreading our fingers nice and wide on our mats, pushing the floor away. It's quite nice to take some softness in the knees to take the pressure off the back of the legs. And we're rolling the pelvis on those thigh bones, lifting the bottom of our pelvis, the sit bones up a little higher. Remembering we can always drop to hands and knees if that's preferable for us. We'll take 3 breaths here. And then we're just going to make our way to the front of the mat. So for some of us, that will be just walking our feet to our hands. Other of us may need to drop our knees to the mat and then step to the front of the mat. Your choice. We find ourselves in forward fold. So we're just letting our body drape across our thighs, taking enough of a bend into our knees that our thighs can support our torso. Let our head drop, let the neck relax. If our hamstrings are tight, we're taking a deeper bend in our legs. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. There might be some slight tugging along the back of our legs. We want to find some softness here though, particularly in our shoulders. Coming up, we're going to gauge those legs, push through the floor, try and hinge from the hips. So take the arms out wide, breathe in, reach all the way up, push through the floor, lifting. And we're gathering our hands into our heart space. Breathe in, look up. Exhale, folding forward, swan diving, hinging at our hips. Inhale, come halfway up, bring our hands to our shins, to our thighs, or maybe to the floor. Rolling the pelvis on the tops of the thigh bones. So we're trying to get this nice flat back. That may be a work in progress. Feet are hip distance apart. As we next exhale, we'll fold forward. And as we inhale, we'll rise to standing. And exhale, hands to heart. Just doing 3 more of those, exactly the same. Breathing in. Exhaling to fold forward, 1 breath, 1 movement. Inhaling, coming halfway up. Exhaling to fold forward. Inhaling to rise. Exhaling, hands to heart. 2 more with your own breath. I tend to breathe slow. You can move with your own breath at your own pace. Just becoming a little bit more introspective. Watching the body move, watching the breath. If you finish before me, just staying in that standing pose. We'll all join you in a minute. And all returning to what we call mountain pose. It's a nice grounded pose. Feet are under our hips, hip distance apart. Nice and stable. Hands at our heart center. We're just going to add on from there. So I'm just going to move to the front of my mat. And we'll add on from here. So breathing in. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale to rise halfway up. Exhale to fold forward, and we're going to step back with our left leg. So leave our right leg forward. That may take a few steps for you. Drop the left knee to the mat. We want to come to this 90-90 position. So not too far forward, sitting in and putting pressure on that left hip joint. We're going to stay in this 90-90 upright position. Tilt the pelvis, so bring the pubic bone closer to the belly button. So trying to flatten out that curve a little bit, and you might feel a bit of a tug in that left hip flexor, or the left top part of our hip. So with that activation, with that top part of our left hip tugging, now just come forward slightly, not too much. Just bringing our right hand to our right thigh, bringing our left hand up, and then leaning over to the right. Exhale. We'll stay here for 2 breaths. Just feeling into the feelings that you're having on the left side of the body. Next time you breathe in, rise up. And then exhale, hands to the mat. We bring our right knee back. Come forward into our hover position. Lower ourselves to the ground. And just like we did at the beginning, we'll flow between cobra and locust, but just once. So inhale, lifting the chest for cobra. Exhale, everything comes back to the mat. Inhale for locust pose. Exhale, hands come back. Take a breath in here. And then exhale, push up, finding downward dog maybe, puppy dog pose, hands and knees, child's pose. Whichever one's suiting you today, for 3 beautiful breaths. At the bottom of this exhale, just walking our feet to the front of the mat. Rising up halfway as we take our breath in. Floating back down as we breathe out. Rise to standing as we inhale. And exhale, hands to heart. Let's try the other side. Breathing in. Floating down as we exhale. Rising halfway up as we inhale. Folding down as we exhale. Right leg will step back, right knee to the mat. Find that 90-90 position. Rock the hips so we feel that stretch come into our right back thigh. And then lean forward slightly. Left hand to left leg, right hand lifts. And we lean over to the left. We take a couple of breaths here. The toes on the right leg can be tucked or flat depending on your knee and what feels best for your body. Inhale to rise up. Exhale, hands to the mat. Left knee comes back to join right. We take a breath in as we push the mat away in our hover position. And exhale, drawing those elbows behind us to lower all the way down. Inhale for cobra. Exhale to the mat. Inhale for locust. Exhale to the mat. Inhale, downward dog. Puppy pose. Hands and knees. Or child's pose. Take 3 breaths. The bottom of that third exhale, just bringing our feet to the front of the mat. Taking an inhale to come halfway up. And an exhale to fold forward. Inhale, rise to standing. And hands to heart. Once more on each side, 1 breath, 1 movement. So a little faster, breathing in. Exhale, folding forward. Rising up halfway as we breathe in. Exhale, folding back down, stepping our left leg back and dropping that knee. Inhale to rise up. Exhale to lean to the right. Inhale to rise back up. Exhale into our hover position. Breathe in, push the floor away. And then exhale to lower all the way down. Breathe in for cobra. Exhale to lower. Breathing in, locust. Exhaling as we lower. Breathing in to push up. And taking that exhale to find downward dog, just for 1 breath. Walking our feet to the front of the mat. Rising up as we breathe in. Folding down as we breathe out. Breathing in to lift. And exhaling, hands to heart. Last time on our left side. Breathing in. Folding forward. Rising up halfway. Folding forward. Right leg steps back, left leg stays forward. Inhale, coming up, lifting our right arm. Exhale, leaning over. Inhale, rising up. Exhale to our hover position. Inhale to push that floor away. Exhale to lower back down. Inhale for a cobra. Exhale to lower. Inhaling locust. Exhaling, lowering. Inhaling, pushing that floor away. And exhaling, downward dog or the pose of your choice for 1 breath. Walking to the front of our mats. Taking an inhale when we arrive here. And an exhale. Come up to standing, breathing in. And hands to heart as we return to mountain pose. Maybe again taking that soft gaze or closing our eyes. We'll just take 3 breaths here. Just noticing the internal landscape of our bodies. And then we're coming to the front of our mats if we're not already there, making sure our feet are hip distance apart, keeping the feet at this hip distance apart and stepping back with our left leg, leaving our right leg forward. So maybe you need to widen that stance. Our left leg our foot is somewhat facing forward. We need a nice wide stance coming to warrior one. We don't want to torque our hips forward, just let them be where they need to be or where the pelvis wants them to be. And then we can turn through our upper chest or our thoracic spine. So turn that forward towards the front of our mats, bending into our front leg and lifting our arms up. If we have any shoulder issues, we can just soften through the elbows. Or if that still doesn't feel comfortable, then we can leave our hands at heart center. Just feeling our body in warrior one, pushing into that back leg, perhaps glancing down or touching the front leg and noticing that the knee's tracking towards our little toe. Feeling the muscles perhaps in that front leg engaged, feeling the muscles in our back leg pushing into our mats. Take a couple of breaths here, letting the shoulders fall away from the ears. And then we're going to bring our arms behind us. If we can, we're clasping our hands. If not, imagine that we're clasping our hands. So rolling our shoulders back, poking our chest out, getting that stretch across the front of the chest. Taking a deep breath in, and then hinging forward from the hips. A little or a lot, it depends on where you want to go. Just trying not to let those shoulders round down. So still opening up through our chest and pushing through that front leg. Humble warrior. A couple of breaths here. Next inhale, release the grip of our hands, rise back up to warrior one. And take our exhale out to warrior two. So generally a little narrower on our mat, perhaps a little longer. Glancing at our back foot, which is maybe parallel to the back edge of the mat. And still bending into that front leg. So bringing our hand to that front leg, encouraging our knee towards our little toe. And then bringing our arms up again if that's comfortable for our shoulders, or resting them at heart center if that feels better for our shoulders. Just like we did on the floor, we're going to inhale, bring that back hand around to meet the front hand. Take an exhale here. Inhale, draw the hand along the body, follow its journey all the way to the back, and then exhale, bring it forward. 3 more times. Inhale, drawing it across the body, following its journey with our gaze. Exhale, bringing it forward. 2 more. Open back out to warrior two, and then reversing our warrior, flipping our front palm, reversing, reaching the top hand backwards. Instead of, if you do yoga regularly, you're quite often looking up, try looking back towards the back leg. It's giving the neck a little bit of a break. So our back leg is still straight. Our front leg can be bent or straight if you prefer. Take 2 more breaths. If at any time we feel we need a rest, we can come to the floor and take whatever pose we want. Next, exhale, windmill your hands to the floor. We're lifting our back heel and dropping our knee, finding ourselves back in our hover position. Inhale to push that floor away. Exhale to lower. Inhale for cobra pose. Exhaling as we lower. Inhaling locust. Exhaling as we lower. Inhaling through hands and knees, and exhaling downward dog or your choice of pose for 2 breaths. At the bottom of this exhale, walking to the front of our mats, rising up halfway, floating back down. Inhaling to come back up to standing and gathering our hands to heart center. We'll try the other side. It's exactly the same, taking those feet hip distance apart. We're leaving our left leg forward this time, stepping our right leg back. So maybe a little wider on our mat, back foot turn maybe at 45 degrees. Bringing that left hand to that left thigh, feeling into that thigh and bending into that leg and encouraging the knee towards the little toe. Pushing into our back leg, letting the hips settle where the hips want to settle and turning from the chest. If it's okay for our shoulders, we're lifting our arms and we'll settle here for a couple of breaths. Again, bringing our hands behind us, either clasping them or imagine you're clasping them. Open the chest up, squeeze the shoulder blades together. We're rolling our shoulders back. Breathe in. And then just that hinge from the hips, so keeping the shoulders open, somewhat straight in our back, just coming forward for our humble warrior. Still bending in our front leg, still pushing in our back leg. If we need a rest, taking our rest. Inhaling to release the hands, rise back up to warrior 1. And then exhaling, finding that warrior 2. So a little longer, perhaps a little narrower. We're still straight in our back leg. We're still bent in our front leg and our arms are reaching. Or gathered at our heart if our shoulders are sore. Exhale to bring that back hand forward. And inhale to draw it along the arm, along the chest, following it with our gaze. Breathe in. Just doing that 2 more times. Then settling into warrior 2. Finding our reverse warrior, looking down at our back foot this time. Maybe we need to straighten our leg and have a little bit of a rest. Just a couple of breaths here. Windmill all the way to the floor, picking up that back heel, dropping the back knee, finding our hover pose. Push the floor away as we inhale. Exhale to lower. Inhaling for our cobra. Exhaling, release. Inhaling for locust. Exhaling, release. Inhaling, hands and knees. Exhaling, downward dog or pose of your choice for 2 full breaths. Walking our feet to our hands. Breathing in as we arrive and coming halfway up. Rolling down as we exhale. Inhale, lifting up to standing. And exhaling, hands to heart. We'll do that once more on each side, matching the breath with movement. So 1 breath, 1 movement. So try and focus on extending the movement to match the breath, matching the breath with the movement. If we're needing to rest, by all means, come to the floor and have a rest. Breathing in, lifting up. Exhaling, folding down. Inhaling, coming halfway up. Exhaling, folding down. Inhale, rise to standing. Gather the hands at heart. Step back with our left leg, finding our warrior one. So inhaling, bending through our right leg. Exhaling, our hands will come behind our back. Inhaling, opening our chest. Exhaling, coming forward, humble warrior. Inhaling, rising back up, warrior one. Exhaling, opening out, warrior two. Inhaling, hand comes forward. Exhaling, drawing it along the body. Inhaling, just settle, warrior two. Exhale, settle, warrior two. Inhale, find our reverse warrior. Exhale, swivel to the mat. Knee drops, find our hover. Take a breath in here. Exhale to lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhaling. Inhaling, locust. Exhaling. Inhaling, hands and knees. Exhaling, downward dog, or your choice, for one breath. Walking to the front of our mat. Coming up halfway as we breathe in. And breathe out. Inhale, rise to standing. And gather the hands to heart. Just a half flow in between. Breathe in. Exhale, fold down. Rise up halfway. Float back down. Come up to standing. Hands to heart. Our right leg steps back. Left leg stays forward, warrior one. Bending through our left leg, breathing in, lifting our arms. Exhale, drawing them behind our back. Inhale, opening our chest. Exhale, coming forward, humble warrior. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, back hand meets front. Exhale, draw it across the body. Inhale, settle into warrior two. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, reverse that warrior. Exhale all the way to the mat. Inhale, hover, pushing the floor away. Exhale, coming down. Inhaling, cobra. Exhaling down. Inhaling, locust. Exhaling down. Inhaling, hands and knees. And this time exhaling, finding child's pose. So toes together, knees apart, hips coming back towards our heels. Hands stretched out or maybe bent in front of you, depending on our shoulders. And head resting on our hands or the mat. Remembering you can tuck that towel over the front of your ankles to take some pressure off that joint. We're just going to take 5 or 6 breaths here. Just noticing the energy that we've created in our body. Perhaps you can feel your heartbeat. Perhaps you can feel that breath a little faster. Let's see if we can slow that breath down, either through breathing through our nose or our mouth. Just try inhaling for a count of 2 and exhaling for a count of 2. And you can stay with that, or you can try inhaling for a count of 3 or 4 and exhaling for a count of 3 or 4. Just counting internally for ourselves. Just doing a couple more rounds. And then take a moment to notice how just slowing that breath down has perhaps changed the internal landscape within the body. The heart rate may be less obvious. You might feel a little calmer. From here, we're just going to make our way to standing. So just coming back through our downward dog, moving slowly and with purpose. Walking forward to the front of our mats. Taking one last rise halfway up. Folding back down. Inhaling, lifting to standing. And gathering our hands at heart space. Just trying to challenge our balance a little with tree pose. So taking the weight into our right leg, just bringing the left foot toes to the mat. Don't try and force that leg open. You'll notice the pelvis moves. Just it'll go where it can go in our pelvis. And maybe you want to stay here with the hands at heart. Perhaps you can lift that foot higher. Try and avoid pushing too much on the knee joint. Perhaps that leg can go even higher. Doesn't matter how high our leg goes. It doesn't matter if it rests on the floor. Tree pose is quite grounding. We're pressing down through the floor. We're pushing the two legs together. Maybe that soft gaze is coming into play again. We can leave our hands here, or we can grow the limbs of our tree. We'll stay here for 3 breaths. At the end of that 3rd breath, if the arms are up, gather them back in. And just shift that weight onto our left leg. Try and keep the points of the pelvis steady. So sipping in that femur bone into the top of our pelvis socket, and then transitioning to tree on the other side. So pushing the legs together, gathering the hands either at heart or reaching them up. And taking our 3 breaths with our nice soft gaze. As we have that final exhale, our hands come back to heart, our foot comes back to the floor. We'll take a nice deep breath in. Fold forward. Just hang here in our forward fold, perhaps taking opposite elbows and just swaying gently from side to side. Remembering that we can have as big a bend in our legs as our body feels it needs. Release the grip on the elbows. We're just going to make our way onto our backs. Just make sure you have a block nearby. So we're going to come back onto our backs. We're going to place that block underneath our sacrum. So the bone that's at the back of the pelvis. So we really want the lower back to be draping off the block. So don't have it up too high, supporting your lumbar spine. You want it right down under the sacrum. So some people have little dimples in their lower back, which is where our PSIS is. Just the top of the block around there. We're going to gather our right leg into our chest and let our left leg go straight. along the floor for the moment. Or if we're tight in our hip flexor, it may hover a little. Lift that left leg up, straight up to the ceiling, keeping the foot flexed. Breathe in, firm up through our belly, and bringing it down to about a 45-degree angle, and just pause there. Dropping it down a little bit further, working through our psoas muscle here, our hip flexor. It's often tight, often weak in people, and quite often a big player in our stress response. Dropping it back just so you can feel some tension, so you can start to feel, yeah, I can feel that that foot's about to drop. So just hover there and hold. And maybe just do some little bounces, but with controlled movement. So not bouncing from momentum, bouncing from lifting and lowering. We're fatiguing this psoas muscle in our hip. Couple more breaths there. It's not necessarily comfortable. And then let it drop all the way to the floor if that's possible, or hang and let the foot point. I'm getting a bit of a stretch now through that same muscle. We'll stay here for 3 or 4 breaths, just breathing and counting in your own mind. Scoop that left leg in, and we'll swap sides. So take a grip on the left leg, probably over the shin, or if you've got knee problems, behind the thigh. Lifting our right leg straight and flexing our foot. And we'll just drop it to about 45 degrees initially. So using that hip flexor to hold it there in space, and creating some tone in what are often weak muscles. Dropping it down a little bit more. And start to really feel this muscle gripping at this point, perhaps. Dropping it down now until you just start to feel that resistance where it becomes a little bit difficult to hold that leg up. And then take those little bounces. Starting to fatigue that psoas muscle. And then let the foot rest on the floor or hover. Let the foot point. Get a little bit of a stretch through the front there of our psoas muscle. Staying here for 2 more breaths. Gather it back into the chest. And then release our feet to the floor. Lift the hips, just set the block away. We will use it again once more before the end of the class. So taking the hips and moving them to the left, about 1 inch or 2. Stretching our right leg away. And using our right hand to draw our left knee across our body. With our left arm, taking it out from the body, palm facing up. If that's okay for our shoulder, maybe above our head. Just getting a nice stretch up through the left side of our body, particularly over this glute area. So do whatever feels best for your shoulders. Enjoy 5 breaths here. Release the grip on that left knee. Bring yourself back to center and shift the hips over to the right. This time stretching our left leg out and using our left arm to draw our right knee across the chest. Right arm can stretch out, palm facing up, or perhaps it's stretching above the head. Again, taking 5 beautiful, deep, long, slow breaths, or whatever breaths are working for you today. Adjust yourself and come back to center. Grabbing this block and putting it on its medium height at the very base of our skull. So we have a ridge at the very base of our skull called the occiput. We want the edge to rest on that occiput, let the chin drape down towards our chest. Knees can be bent or straight, hands just resting lightly at our sides. We're just going to rock the skull and the head from side to side, doing a bit of myofascial release on those ropey muscles that connect our head to our body. They can be a little tight. Next time the head comes to the left, leaving it there, just making small circles with our nose. And we can have our soft gaze happening here. We can have our eyes closed. Whatever's working best for us. Changing direction with our circles. And taking the head through center and off to the right. Just playing around till you find a bit that's most effective for you and making those small circles again. Try to encourage those fibrous muscles and tendons to just release and relax a little. And then changing direction with our nose. Coming back to center, just take a couple of rocks from side to side again. And finding our final resting pose. So just gently removing that block, maybe supporting our head as we do so. Laying our head back on our mat. Stretching our feet away if that's comfortable for our back, or keeping our legs bent. Taking our arms away from our body slightly. I like to just roll up, tuck my shoulder blades under, just creating a bit more real estate on my back. So in our final resting pose, again, we have that option of our soft gaze, or perhaps our eyes are closed. I'm just going to bring our awareness to our feet. Just noticing first our left foot, and then our right foot. Traveling up our legs and bringing our awareness to our left shin and our left calf, our right shin, our right calf, our left knee, our right knee, the big quadriceps on our left leg, the front of our thigh, the back of our left thigh, the quadriceps on our right leg, the back of our right thigh, the glute muscles on the back of our pelvis, the left and the right, the front of our pelvis, the whole pelvis and its weight settling on our mats. The back of our body resting on our mats. Our shoulders falling away towards our mat. Our left shoulder. Our left thumb. Our left pointer finger. Middle finger. Ring finger. Little finger. Our whole left hand. Our left forearm. Our left upper arm. Our right thumb. Our right pointer finger. Middle finger. Ring finger. Little finger. Our right hand. Our right forearm. Our right upper arm. Our right shoulder. Our head resting on our mat and supported. Forehead and eyes relaxed. Our whole body heavy and relaxed. Our whole body heavy and relaxed. Our whole body heavy and relaxed. Just staying here in silence for about a minute, knowing that I'm holding space for you and that I will bring you out. Notice if your mind's drifted off and bring it back into your physical body, noticing where your physical body is in space, in the room, on your mat, safe and relaxed. Taking a nice deep breath in, drawing the arms overhead and stretching the legs away. And as we exhale, perhaps calling the knees into the chest, grabbing them and having a little rock on the sacrum at the base of our spine, back of our pelvis. Eventually come to rest on one side using your arm as a pillow. Just stay here for a moment. Just notice if you feel any different than you did at the beginning of the class. No judgments, no expectations, just noticing. And then allowing yourself to push up to a comfortable seated position. So whatever's comfortable for you in your body. I like to finish all my classes with a quote, and today's quote is from Andy Puddicombe, who's the founder of Headspace and also a Buddhist monk. Andy says, life is not what happened back there or what might happen up ahead. Life is like the rhythm of the heart. Every breath, every blink of the eye, it is beat by beat, moment by moment. Thank you for joining me for class today. Thank you for allowing yourself the time to come and connect with yourself.